When the Reaper calls your name, there is no apology. When the Reaper calls your name, there is no remorse. When the Reaper calls your name, it's just over. Justin Ross Harris, your name has been called. What's good, everybody? It's Saturday afternoon. It's hot at least the state of Oregon, that is. And this is Bethesda's Byte Reloaded, your home for news, opinions, debates, your voice, and justice served. What's good, everybody? I'm Ernest Bethea, the Last Outlaw. Thank you so much for joining me on this weekend. Today, I'm going to continue on a rant that I started while talking with Arctic Fox True Crime in regard to the overturning of Justin Ross Harris, his murder conviction of the death of his 22-month-old son, Cooper. And trust me, I've got a great deal to say about this case, including calling out his ex-wife, excuse me. I'll get to her in a moment. But of course, as always, I've got to do my house cleaning. So, first off, let me send a shout out to all 97 of my YouTube subscribers. Thank you all so much. Tell your friends, as Puff Daddy would say, tell your friends to get with my friends, and we can be friends. You know what I'm saying? We can do this. We can do this every weekend. If you're trying to get a hold of me, I've got 5 ways for you to get in contact with me. If you're trying to get to me by Facebook, you can. You can reach me on my personal page at the Last Outlaw 316. If you're trying to get to my Bethesda's Byte Reloaded page, great. Get to me at Bethesda's Byte Reloaded. I want you to like, comment, share, follow me. I will have this video and others just like it posted there. If you're trying to reach me by Twitter, that's cool too. I will link this video on my personal Twitter page at EKB316. I want you to like this video, share it, retweet it, drop your comments. I want to hear from you. Follow me, and I will keep this coming. For everybody on YouTube, you can hit me up at user/EKB316. Drop me a line right here. Like, share, comment, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for future videos. Still hard at work on the message board, but I would love to hear from you at ByteCom. Register. Log into the board. Leave me a comment. I want you to get in on the conversation and the investigation. And of course, I don't mind you emailing me at all. Hit me up at kingofhearts316_09 at outlook.com. In the subject line, I want you to type in Matthias Byte Reloaded. Then please drop me a comment. I want to hear from you. But please keep those comments clean because they may be read online live. Let's see who we got here first of all. How you doing, Ruby Pearl? Pearl, hey, you can't believe it. I can't either. I would love to have you. I would love to have you on. I would love to have you on here. Here's if you like to join. Hang on a second. Where's my link? There it is. There it is. There it is. Yes. If you'd like to join me, here's the invitation. I would love for you to jump in on this. But right now, the house cleaning is done. Let's get down to business. I'm keeping his ugly mug up here for the moment. But I want you to think of what's going on here. I'm going to start with this article courtesy of our good friends at CBS News. Georgia's highest court on Wednesday overturned the murder and child cruelty convictions against a man whose toddler son died after he left him in a hot car for hours, saying the jury saw evidence that was extremely and unfairly prejudicial. Justin Ross Harris, age 41, was convicted in November 2016 on 8 counts, including malice murder, in the death of his 22-month-old son, Cooper. The judge sentenced him to life without parole, as well as 32 more years in prison for other crimes. All of the Georgia Supreme Court justices agreed that there was sufficient evidence to support Harris's convictions, but the majority opinion, written by Chief Justice David Namias, says that much of the evidence having to do with Harris's sexual activities shouldn't have been admitted or may have improperly influenced the jury. The ruling means that Harris is entitled to a new trial on the murder and child cruelty charges against him. The High Court upheld Harris's convictions on 3 sex crimes against the 16-year-old girl that Harris had not appealed. The Cobb County District Attorney's Office, which prosecuted the case, and a lawyer for Harris did not immediately respond to requests for comment on Wednesday. Prosecutors argued that Harris was unhappy in his marriage and intentionally killed his son to free himself. And to support the theory, they presented extensive evidence of extramarital sexual activities that he engaged in, including exchanging sexually explicit messages and graphic photos with women and girls and meeting some of them for sex. The 6-3 majority opinion says that the jury heard and saw an extensive amount of improperly admitted evidence. It says that as prosecutors painted Harris as a man who intentionally and maliciously abandoned his child to die in the summer heat, they also presented a substantial amount of evidence to lead the jury to answer a different and more legally problematic question. What kind of man is Harris? I have my opinions on that in just a minute. Harris, who moved from Tuscaloosa, Alabama to the Atlanta area for work in 2012, told police he forgot to drop his son off at daycare on the morning of June 18, 2014, driving straight to his job as a web developer for Home Depot without remembering that Cooper was still in his car seat. Cooper died after sitting for about 7 hours in the back seat of the vehicle outside of his father's office in suburban Atlanta, where temperatures that day reached at least into the high 80s. Defense attorneys described him as a doting father and said the boy's death was a tragic accident. Justice Charlie Bethel wrote a partial dissent that was joined by Justice Sean LaGrua and Justice Verda Colvin. He said that the state was entitled to introduce in detail evidence of the nature, scope, and extent of the truly sinister motive it ascribed to Harris. For that reason, Bethel wrote, the trial court did not abuse its discretion in allowing the challenged evidence. Jurors in the trial heard from a total of 70 witnesses, 52 of whom testified for the prosecution, according to CBS affiliate WGCL. Harris's defense attorney argued in November that his client was clueless and forgetful, but a prosecutor called Harris a murderer with a malignant heart who killed his child to escape his family commitments as he sank deeper into a double life of sexual flirting and affairs with women he met online. A jury in Glynn County, located on the Georgia coast about 60 miles south of Savannah, spent about a month listening to evidence in the case and deliberated for 4 days before finding Harris guilty on all 8 counts against him. So yeah. What kind of man is Justin Harris? One, we already know he's unfaithful. The evidence proved that. Second, we know that he could care less about his family, or else he would have stayed with his wife, or if he wasn't happy in his marriage, he would have left. That's the smart thing, isn't it? And as for his kid, it burns me up to say if he had any kind of love for his child, he would have known better. He would have checked all throughout his car to make sure his son was nowhere in danger. But then again, Justin Ross Harris, forgetful as he may be, left his son in danger for 7 hours on the date of June the 14th? Was it June 14th? Excuse me, June 18th, 2014. June 18th, 2014. He left his child to die in a hot car. And I put emphasis on the hot car because like it said, the temperatures that day reached it at least into the high 80s. Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast says he had no medical reason to stand behind his forgetfulness. You forget things at the grocery store. not your child in a hot car. I totally agree with you. He was just thinking with the wrong head. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If he had been thinking with the head sitting on top of his shoulders, then that would be one thing. He wouldn't have to work. We wouldn't be having to talk about this case now because 8-year-old Cooper would be alive today. 8-year-old Cooper would be thriving. Whether his marriage would have lasted, that's another story for a different day and a different time. But as far as the Georgia Supreme Court, my opinion, I think they got it wrong. I think they got it wrong. Why do I say that? Simple. Name one time where evidence doesn't get admitted that puts somebody behind bars. That the evidence is not crucial to the case. How his wife stands behind him is beyond me. I will get to her in a minute. Trust me. I got Tammy Wynette's number on speed dial, if you know what I mean. But back to what I was saying. How can you say that all the sexual evidence has nothing to do with the case? If it had nothing to do with the case, then how do you get a conviction for his crimes against a 16-year-old minor? Like Ruby Pearl just said, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Ross Harris was thinking with the other head. He wasn't thinking with the head on his shoulders. If he had, he would have went, taken his son to daycare, came back to his job. Sorry, I'm late. No, he wasn't worried about Cooper. Sure, he got to work, but he wasn't worried about Cooper. At least not until it was too late. The result, I've said this many times before, and I even said it. I said it right before summer came in officially. Whatever the temperature is outside, add 20 degrees to it inside. We're in the high 90s on June 18th, 2014. We're in the high 80s, practically in the 90s, mind you. The boy is in the back seat cooking. You suffer heat stroke at 103 degrees. How do I know this? Because I mentioned it. How you doing, True Crime and Coffee? Yeah. And that's DIVORCE. Yeah, that's what Leanna Taylor did, but she's also doing the other song, Stand By Your Man. We'll get to her in a little bit. But back to the safety course again. Oh, the case got you sick. You're sick and tired of these neglectful parents getting off on stuff. Hey, I stand with you. I stand wholeheartedly with you. Like I said before, you leave a child in a hot car. The outside temperature is at 90 or more. Tack on 20 degrees inside, and that child is cooking. He or she'll suffer heat stroke with a temperature of 103. At 107, that child dies. You think Justin Ross Harris cared about that? No, 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 no. He wanted he wanted to have it. He literally wanted to have his cake and eat it too. Even if the cake was just 16 years old. Thanks, True Crime and Coffee. I would love to have many more eyes and ears on this. I've said this. I've said this more times than I can count, and I say it year after year after year. I mean, just recently we just found out that a child in Houston, 5 years old, died in a hot car. And what happened? Mom forgot all about it. She, the boy, and his sister were together getting stuff for the sister's eighth birthday. According to the mother, they were in a rental car. So, according to her, the rental car was probably unfamiliar to the child. He was buckled in, but couldn't get himself buckled out. Normally the child would be able to get himself in and not be able to get, but this time not get himself out. I'm not too sure. I'm not even that sure how comfortable I really am about that excuse. But that's another story. I've mentioned this time and time and time again. But yet and still, we keep having to bring these stats up. And I'm about to bring up a little something right now, if I can get the right information. Hmm. 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 Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna get on Justin Ross Harris's ex-wife in just a moment. But first, I want you all to hear this and hear this well. This is just yesterday from no, excuse me. This is from June 21st edition of USA Today. The headline reads, Texas boy becomes fifth child to die in a hot car in 2022. Experts say the deaths are 100% preventable. 100% preventable. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, 100% preventable. That means all it takes is a little common sense, right? Let me read on. A 5-year-old Texas boy died Monday after being left inside of a sweltering vehicle for several hours as his family prepared for a party, according to authorities. This is the latest hot car-related death involving a minor in the United States. According to Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, the child was in a car for about 2 to 3 hours after his family returned home from purchasing items at a store for his 8-year-old sister's birthday. The boy, who was not identified, was pronounced dead on the scene. The sheriff's office said Tuesday that investigators responded to the scene and the case is open. That's according to the Associated Press. The office said investigators will meet with the district attorney's office to present their findings. The boy is the 5th child to die in the U.S. this year. Texas Heat Stroke Task Force Chair Johnny Humphreys told USA Today this on Tuesday. This is the second hot car-related death in Texas in 2022. On average, 39 children die in hot car-related death each year in the United States. 39. That's 39 too many. That's also according to the nonprofit child safety organization Kids and Car Safety. The organization has reported that more than 1,000 children have died in hot cars since 1990. As we move into the summer and these really hot days, we really want to bring awareness. We want people to take safety precautions and create habits in their everyday lives to prevent this from happening. This is from Kids and Car Safety and their director, Amber Rollins. A majority of hot car-related deaths are accidental. Nationally, about 53% of hot car-related deaths are the result of the child being forgotten and left unattended in vehicles, according to Humphreys. About 26% of hot car-related deaths are due to the child gaining access to an unlocked vehicle, and 20% of deaths are because the child is knowingly left in a vehicle. Bev Kellner, the project director for the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Passenger Safety and Kids Safe Initiatives Project, noted that children are at a higher risk for heat stroke as their body temperatures, pay attention to this, they are at a higher risk for heat stroke as their body temperatures rise 3 to 5 times faster than an adult's body. Now, I wonder where I got that. Wonder where I got that information from. Probably from the same source. Think about it. Although it does not even have to be a hot summer day for this to happen. 2/3 of pediatric vehicular heat strokes, or PVH deaths, occur during the summer months. Temperatures in a vehicle can increase from up to 20 degrees in a span of 10 minutes and will continue to rise. Contrary to belief, rolling down a window or leaving it open does little to help the heat. That's according to Laura Dunn, a safety specialist for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Experts and advocate groups encourage caregivers and parents to follow precautions and safety advisories such as creating habits and ensuring children cannot access unattended parked vehicles. So, they give you these safety tips. Place a visual cue in the front passenger seat to show that the child's with you. In other words, your briefcase, a teddy bear, something. Put it in the front seat to remind you to check the back seat. Or I believe I mentioned this in that recent edition of the things, Mike. The the pattern is park, look, lock, or even ask yourself, "Where's my baby?" Common sense. Next one, common sense. Never leave a child unattended in a vehicle. Common sense. I mean, how many times do we have to say this? Leaving a child in the back, leaving a child unattended in a vehicle with the weather as hot as it is now, and as hot as it's gonna get. All you're doing basically is leaving your child in that vehicle to die. If Justin Ross Harris had been thinking like that, Cooper would be alive today. If the mother to this 5-year-old had been thinking like that, that 5-year-old would be alive today. Next step, again, common sense. Make it a routine or a habit of checking the back door every time you park. To enforce this, place an item you can't start your day without in the back seat. Look at that. Your briefcase. Um, Important paperwork. Important equipment. If you can't start your day without it, put it in the back seat. But that'll also give you a reminder that your child is in the back seat. Wow, what a coincidence. Let me hold up before I go on with Ruby Pearl. Car heat your boots and answer your phone nowadays. Have navigation and GPS. Great idea. And cars can. Oh yeah. Think about it this way, ladies and gentlemen. That's a good on point Ruby Pearl made as well. You got upper 80-degree temperature outside. I'm using the Justin Ross Harris case as an example. You got upper 80-degree temperature outside. You go to sit down in that car, you barely able to sit in it because it's hotter than what it already is inside. One and two, if you have the kind of seats I believe you have in your car, it's leather. Leather tends to get hot, especially if the sun is beating through your window onto that driver's seat, onto those passenger seats. Think, ladies and gentlemen, think. Common sense. Keep your vehicles locked at all times, especially when parked. But before you do that, please check the back seat. Your child might be in there. Check the back seat. Your child might be in there. Let me say this one more time, slowly. Please check the back seat. Your child may be there. Next piece, common sense. Never leave your keys within the reach of children. That's common sense. just like you will with medication. It tells you crystal clear, keep out of reach of children. Do your keys the same way. Keep out of reach of children. Your child will think that your car is a play area. It's not. Make sure they know that. And lastly, again, common sense. If your child care provider hasn't arrived to you right away, you have that child care provider call you. Again, if this had happened in the Harris case, Cooper would be alive today. And maybe, just maybe, Harris would be the only one, would only be doing the 32 years he's got behind bars right now, instead of the original conviction of life with no parole plus 32. The article concludes by saying that pediatric vehicular heat stroke deaths are considered 100% preventable. Developing of view prevention habits can prevent family tragedies. And it is so true. It's so true. Now, I've done the reminder. I've ran it on Justin Ross Harris, but there's another side of this story as well. And it goes to the Tammy Wynette of this story, Leanna Taylor. This is courtesy of People magazine. The wife, or should I say ex-wife, of Justin Ross Harris is speaking out, saying he was a, quote, loving and proud father, end quote, who simultaneously was a terrible husband. Harris, now 41, was convicted of murder after authorities say that he intentionally left his 22-month-old son Cooper to die in a hot car while he was at work on June 18, 2014. He had taken Cooper to breakfast and then neglected to drop the toddler off at daycare, instead driving to his job at Home Depot. Hours later, Harris discovered his son's lifeless body in the back of his SUV. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Harris killed his son so he could be free to have sex with as many women as possible. They also claimed he exchanged sexual text messages with 6 different people, including a 16-year-old girl, on the day his son died. Harris's defense team contended that Cooper's death was a tragic accident and that Harris did not intend to kill him. On Wednesday, the Georgia Supreme Court overturned the conviction, ruling that much of the evidence presented at Harris's 2016 trial was, quote, needlessly and cumulative and prejudicial, end quote, and should have been excluded from testimony. The court upheld the sexual crimes against Harris, which the defendant did not challenge. Harris was convicted of 1 count of exploitation of a child and 2 counts of dissemination of harmful material to a minor for his exchanges with the teen. He will remain in prison for those convictions. The day after the conviction was overturned, his ex-wife, Leanna Taylor, issued a statement about her former husband, which was obtained by CNN. Ross was a loving and proud father to Cooper. At the same time, Ross was being a terrible husband. These two things can and did exist at the same time. While this will not change anything about my day-to-day life, I do hope it shows people what those closest to the case have been saying from the beginning. In her statement, Taylor urged authorities to find a way to stop these deaths from happening. It's been 8 years since Cooper died, and children have continued to die the same way every year, she added, wasting precious resources. Prosecuting the parents that this happens to is not the answer. Oh, really? First, let me start with you standing by your man, Leanna Taylor. Is it just me, or are you choosing the man over your child? If you're because if that's the case, then sit down, be quiet, because no one's even paying attention to that now. Your son is dead because of what your ex-husband did and what your ex-husband didn't do. If you're gonna sit there and you're gonna basically back your ex-husband just because, according to you, he was a loving and proud father, but at the same time he was a terrible husband, you might as well have stayed with the man, because you are choosing him over the life of your child. Think. Next, forget what forget his job at the Home Depot. As a father, Justin had one job, and that was to take his son to daycare. He didn't do that. What happened? He left your son, not just his son, your son, in the back of the SUV for 7 hours. For most of us, that's the average work day. That's the average work day. He left him in there with high 90-degree temperatures, high 80-degree temperatures, excuse me, outside. I can only imagine what the temperature was inside the back of that SUV. Remember those numbers, 104 and 107? Let me remind you, between 103 104 degrees, your child can suffer vehicular heat stroke. Add 3 degrees to that. Add 3 degrees to that. Your child is dead at 107. Ruby Glamper says even if it wasn't intentional, it is child neglect and endangerment. Yes. And deserves a manslaughter charge at the least. Yes. Evidence is prejudicial? Ha! Because it shows his priorities and they weren't on his son. Can't make it any more plain than that. Can't make it any more plain than that. Yes, it is. It's neglect. And that's basically what your husband did. He neglected his child. He neglected your child, Leanna. Wake up! Sure, he was a terrible husband. We have those. You may have done the right thing by divorcing him. Fine. But right now, you're not doing the right thing standing by him. Because, because of the fact You're standing by him, and you're still standing by him despite what he neglected to do with your child. If if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, Leanna, and somehow you're thinking this guy needs to put some respect on my name, you haven't earned it. You haven't earned it, because if there's one person you haven't stood up for, it's Cooper. Cooper can't stand up for himself. At the time, he was only 22 months. If Cooper were alive today, he'd be 8 years old. Like I said earlier, he'd be thriving, not just surviving. He'd be thriving. Why? Because you are there for him. Well, at least I thought you would be there for him. Your child, your child is gone, and you are standing up for your ex-husband. You are standing up for your ex-husband who has, okay, I'm gonna go all the way off on a limb here. He has cheated on you more times than I can count. He has been leading a double life. He has, I mean, come on, he, he's played you like a fool. He played you like a fool. He is making all these different contacts with other women, including as young as 16 years of age. But he's a loving and proud dad. How you doing, Joe? That's one reason why you haven't been able to do your live yet. I'm so disappointed in Leanna. Hey, well, here's an invite. You can come along with me, and I say we'll pick this up. We can pick it up a little more later on your live. Would you like to jump in? Because like you, I'm disappointed in Leanna. I'm a stepdad and no better than this. I am not gonna stand up beside anybody. I'm not gonna stand for anybody who is going to side with the monster. And I'm calling Justin Ross Harris out like that. Call me the Reaper, but Justin Ross Harris, I'm calling your name because you are a monster. I can't express that enough. Your priorities were about you, yourself, and you. You not paying attention, not paying any kind of attention to your son. You neglected him, and that led to his death. If you'd been paying attention, you would have went ahead. You would have taken him to daycare. Nah, nah. You're in such a rush. You're in such a rush. You ran off. You went to work and you left them in the car for 7 hours. 7 hours. It's still stuck in my head. You left them in the car for 7 hours. The temperatures were in the upper 80s. And want to you, Leanna, you want to you want to stand by your ex-husband despite the fact your son is gone. Thanks to him. And then on top of that, you have the unmitigated gall to say wasting precious resources, prosecuting the parents that this happened to is not the answer. Really now? Then riddle me this then. Riddle me this then. Okay. Okay, Joe. Riddle me this then. If the same thing happened to another couple, and that child dies in a hot car, whose fault is it? Who do we blame? Are we going to blame the car manufacturer? Or here's the biggest shot of it all. Are you going to blame Almighty God for the sun, the hot temperature, the sunlight beaming down on your car? And oh my God, he did what? And he took the light bulbs out to the car with Cooper strapped in hours after he left him. Yeah, that was likely when he found out the hard way that his son died. Again, I say, ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why I preach this thing year after year after year. And I recently said this at the end of May. The reason I do this is for all of you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear about another child dying in a hot car, but guess what? I've already done so in Texas. I keep saying, I don't want you to catch a court case. No, he didn't find out until after that. Joe, Joe, if anything, right now, that little bit of information oh no, wait. Leanna had to call him after daycare allegedly called her. She probably did because he didn't do what he was supposed to do in the beginning, which was take Cooper to daycare. So I can see Leanna calling him. I can see that. Oh, it's this case is gonna drive me crazy because it was because of this case that I started doing this year after year. Around 3 o'clock. That's sad. That is sad. Oh my gosh. Again, like I said, I do this because I don't want to hear about parents catching a catching a case. Wow. Now that's news to me. Okay. Okay, Joe, whenever you decide to do this live, I definitely want to jump in on the conversation with you. Can we do that? Because what I'm saying now, I'll likely repeat, and there are maybe some other things I want to add. Yeah, yeah, I believe you. I believe you. This is a local case. I believe you. All right. All right. Game on. But like I said before, the reason I do this year after year, I don't want parents like this catching a case. I don't want to do like I did a few days ago, turning on my local news or even national news like the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell, and hearing about another child dying in a hot car. Parents, I beg of you, time and time again, I beg of you, use your common sense. It's not that hard. You put your child in the back seat. Oh, what's this? She testified against him just to avoid charges herself, and she still stands by the monster now. He was a loving and proud father, but he was a terrible husband. Come on, Leanna, wake up! I mean, I'm gonna say this again because it bears repeating. If it wasn't for your ex-husband and his dalliance, your 8-year-old son would be alive today. 8 years old. The only thing she was right about is Cobb County is very overreaching. Screwed up going for malice murder. Well, apparently they had got him for it before the Georgia Supreme Court overturned it. They only overturned it because of the sexual evidence that they got him doing 32 years for. And let me tell you, as far as that goes, yeah, the monster deserves to be behind bars for that. So, no love, no love for Justin Ross Harris on that. Then, like I said, he neglected his child. Leanna, I'm saying this again, he neglected your child. Instead of taking him to daycare, he went on to work. He left the child in the back of an SUV. Oh, he's not, is he? Oh, he's not living a hard life in Georgia prison. Well, right now, I'll say this. I'll say this. Justin Ross Harris is a lucky, lucky guy. Yeah, lucky. He's lucky because no one really has got a hold of him yet. Nobody's really got a hold of him yet. Oh, life was having good. Oh, I don't know. I'm only assuming here, but I think that only goes depending on where you are. Then again, I'm here in Oregon. I wouldn't know about prisons in Georgia, so I can't testify to that. Then again, I can't testify how bad it is really because thank God I've never been behind bars. I'm blessed. I'm blessed about that. If you're gonna, if you're really gonna through this point and neglect your child, don't leave that child in the hands of somebody that's actually gonna care for him. Oh, oh, Ruby. He ought to be suffering in a hot cell in Georgia, sitting next to Ahmaud Arbery's murders. You have no idea how much I agree with you, but again Ahmaud Arbery case. That's a different. That's a totally different case. I'm glad to see justice served on that, but we'll talk about that one later. Right now, I am dead. I'm laser focused on Justin Ross Harris. I'm laser focused on children dying in hot cars. And most of all, above all else, I am laser focused in seeking justice just for being so neglectful. I can't. I can't. I can't. Uh oh. Joe jumps in. Yes, ma'am. Come on in. How you
Hello,
doing?
hello.
Good to have you here. I thought you were trying to save your voice.
Well, it's not my voice, it's my mouth. I have a big hole from I had to have a tooth extracted and I always have really problems healing, so ended up getting infected and so now I'm supposed to be on oral rest, but I'm not a good patient.
Mm. You're about as you're about as bad as me, and you already know what I'm dealing with.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. But oh, you had me fired up about this one. So this one
Oh,
is so
I count today as rant day. So if you're fired up, you got something to say, Joe, I give you the floor.
well, thank you, Bethea. Um, so Cobb County, I lived in Cobb County when this happened. Now I no longer live in Cobb County. I'm right over the border. But um, after I had been sentenced and was waiting to go down the road to prison myself, um, I was in Cobb County and saw him in the transport area. We didn't speak or anything. I was in A pod, and I think he was in D pod, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, just just the cocky, arrogant way that he held himself and just walked around. And as a matter of fact, the Ruby Pearl Glamper piqued my curiosity. I need to look up. I'm gonna look up and see if they are both, if the Aubrey murderers, if they are in the same prison, because
Mm.
being that they're both lifers, or they're all lifers, they could all be at Rogers. Um, but I'll double check. But I mean, lifers, and this is I was only in a female prison in Georgia, so I can't speak directly for the male prisons, but I can speak from my own experience with Georgia lifers. And they get up, they especially if they have family support, which you can tell that he does. So he's getting commissary, he's getting money on the phones, he's getting visits. um and it's very uplifting to lifers. But one thing that they also have is nothing but time on their hands to try and find an appellate attorney and go through another appellate attorney until they get what they want. And I mean, there was one that I was in with. I cannot remember. I know her first name was Janice, but I cannot remember her last name for the life of me. But she was in, and she had been sentenced with the death penalty. But while I was there, she got her death penalty overturned, from initially life without, and then got it overturned again, or got it changed again to life with. So mandatory minimum now for Georgia lifers is 30. But it's knowing what I know about the Georgia heat, the location where this was, this was at the Home Depot corporate center, right on the border of Marietta, as you're kind of going into Atlanta. And I mean, they don't directly border each other, but closer to Atlanta than I am to Atlanta. And so he went to Chick-fil-A first, got food. He was witnessed at Chick-fil-A with Cooper. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll have to go back and look at the surveillance footage again, but he was seen on surveillance footage, I believe, passing the daycare. So he had to pass it. He had to make a U-turn in order to get back to the driveway of the Home Depot corporate center. Then parked, went in, was doing all the sexting and, chatting with underage. But even before that, he was posting on the child-free subreddits. He was, everything under the sun. And so all of that went to motive for malice murder. And, I can see where malice murder may have been a stretch. Like I said, in chat, the one thing I will agree with Leanna on is the fact that Cobb County is overreaching. My mom says that they would arrest and charge their own mother if they had to.
Mm. I also remember reading with one of the articles, the defense attorneys described Harris as, quote, clueless and forgetful.
Yep.
Clueless and forgetful is, you go into a grocery store, You get everything on your shopping list except for that one thing.
Right. I mean, why should they have to put alarms on back seats for people to remember that they have a child in their back seat?
One, lack of common sense, and
Yeah.
two, as Confucius say, short-term memory needs long-term notebook.
Right? Right.
I've said that again. I've been preaching this thing. I've been preaching this thing for years since Justin Harris,
Yeah.
and now I'm about ready to preach this thing again with this new case that's out. The 5-year-old out of Texas.
Oh, yes. Yes, that 5-year-old in Texas, and I don't know if you saw what I posted on my community tab this morning and on
Mm,
Twitter, but in my county, not directly in my town where I'm at, but about 20 minutes away, a mother was arrested, for and according to some neighbors' comments that I've seen, let me pull this up because I had sent it to my husband. Let's
yeah.
see. Let's get back here. Where is it? Okay. Let me read through this real quick. So, like I said, this was only about 20-ish minutes away from me. We may actually, well, I know that we're going to go and put some flowers at the house and talk to the neighbors and see if there's anything that we can do. But 2 children have died. 3 children were injured at the hands of their own mother. This is all alleged. This came from a neighbor. This did not come out in the news. So, we can't say how credible it is, but it's from the sounds of even the article and the fact that she was arrested, it gives much more weight to this. She doused her kids in oil or gas, drugged them with sleeping pills, and set the house on fire with them still inside while
Oh
she
my.
sat in the backyard and watched safely outside. This was
Oh my
3
God.
houses up from this neighbor. People could hear the kids screaming. A few of the older ones were cognitive enough to break a second-story window and jump to get help across the street. Someone had to shoot the front door to get it open. There were a total of, according to some reports, 7 children in the house, and 2 died, and 3 were injured.
Unbelievable.
And it's never ending. It's never ending. These cases, especially these crimes against children, they really, really hit me in the gut,
It's hitting me in the
because
gut right now just listening to this. I mean,
it's, I just can't. I can't.
I'm with you. I am so with you. I mean, those aren't the people that does this to their kids. Those aren't parents. They're monsters.
They're monsters. Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
who does that to their child?
Yeah. And I mean,
I
to
mean,
think this was in Rockmart, and I mean, Rockmart is a small country town. You wouldn't think that something like this would happen, but
I don't know why my mind keeps going back to that one line by Michael Jackson, but I swear it has so much wisdom in it. If you can't feed the baby, then don't have a baby. And
yeah,
don't think maybe if you can't feed the baby.
that's right.
How much wisdom is that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lady Outlaw. You are so right.
What'd she say?
If you don't want the baby, give it away. Give it to somebody who's going
Exactly.
to give it to somebody that's actually going to care for it.
Right. Yep, you are exactly right. Well, let me hop off here real quick. I've got to go check on my kiddos, and
Yeah.
then
I'm
I'll
about
be
I'm about to get off here myself, but if and whenever you decide to do your live, guess what? You got company coming.
I will. I will send you a DM shortly on that. I'll be live with True Crime and Coffee here soon. We're going to talk about the Lily Peters update, and we're
Yeah.
going to go over the dirty laundry debacle.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, the so-called confession by
Yeah.
Brian. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got
That's more than enough to talk about.
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of thoughts rattling around in my head about that one. So, yeah, we definitely need to talk about that. So, I'll catch you over there and I'll
All right,
send you a DM and we'll get the Harris stream scheduled for us doing it together.
all right, all right.
All
Well, Joe,
right.
it was an honor it's been an honor having you on here. I
Well,
love to
thank
have
you
you
for
here back
having
in the
me.
future. And that's gonna wrap it up from me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much. We're gonna, as you heard, we're gonna talk about this some more over with Darkness Exposed, plus a few other cases that's been on our minds, including like she described it, dirty laundry. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that on her podcast. But for right now, again, thank you all so much for joining me. Bathea's Byte Reloaded, as always, is your home for news, opinions, debates, your voice, and justice served. And I love to hear. I can't wait to hear from you guys come next time. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for catching the live stream. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Until then, you all know what to do. And Justin Ross Harris, this is definitely one for you, my friend. Bite this. Hey guys, this is the Last Outlaw. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Bathea's Byte Reloaded. Be sure to follow Bathea's Byte all over social media. Follow me on Facebook at the Last Outlaw 316 or on the Bathea's Byte Reloaded page at Bathea's Byte Reloaded. Follow me on Twitter at EKB316. I'd love to hear from you there. On YouTube at user/EKB316. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and ring that notification bell for future videos. Hit me up on the message forum at www.BethesdaByte.com. Register, log in, get in on the conversation and the investigation. If email is your thing, drop me a comment there. My address is kingofhearts316_09 at outlook.com. This is your home for news, opinions, debates, your voice, and justice served. This is Bethea's Byte.